Okay, this is Katie. I just wanted to let you guys know I'm with DJ 44 for the press conference at 2.
And now,
I would say we'll for half an hour.
would be for
Yeah.
celebration.
Well, maybe do 45 just to be safe.
These first generations, exactly. So I'm second generation.
You can call it
We're not always top.
Race Massacre or DOJ officer.
I did.
I know we're doing that too.
Okay. Do you see me? Am I up? Yep, exactly. Thanks, Matt.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, she, okay. Yes. I love her. Is there another one?
Yes.
Yes, I can go down.
Okay.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay.
Okay, cool. Okay, thank you. Descendants and Descendants.
Hey, how you doing? Good. How are you? What are you up to? I can probably get it out.
So if I keep from banging this table into somebody, I hit it with my knee.
You'll be just fine. Yeah, well, I'm with Jim's granddaughter. With Jim, he's a survivor. Yeah. Uh-huh. That's correct. But yeah, and my plan is 7. So, go around, see if she wants family.
Couldn't find this place. I made it.
Keep circling.
Oh my goodness. So, 5 times. I said,
I've been telling them about my grandfather.
That's my whole.
She's in
I'm
the
54.
city.
Yeah, so when I was 7.
What you trying to get to?
So when did you learn?
Greenwood, second.
I'm 7 years
So your mom, my mother's generation of the first Descendants, right? Okay, that's so.
Yeah, I was serious. I was
I'm raised by my
It's like
grandparents.
hidden,
So
and then there's like construction. So it's like,
yeah, it's there. Yeah, you go. Yeah, I was at the library.
Michael Penn.
You go back up there, I got to meet some more people.
I'm kidding.
And what's your name again? I'm sorry.
I don't hear you.
Oh, I'm working
I
on
texted.
I'm from Tulsa. I just don't live here anymore. Gotcha. It's hard.
yes, yes.
started around 2:10,
That's your way.
so a couple more minutes.
It's down on, what's going on? That's where.
I know you are.
North side.
I just had to come.
Yeah, thank you. I'm glad you came.
And I have a lot of connections with my family. That's the reason my mom, because actually, remember that law that goes on. Right. And to the city of Tulsa.
I think I took it on TV. I don't think I take number 2 for that right now.
Yes, remember
Yeah, I should be, when he usually leaves at 3.
well, I didn't hear anything. But anyway, I have information that I fed him as well.
Yeah, I was thrown off by the next day, Thursday, not Friday, so I
Not
took.
survivors.
Okay, I was gonna bring back some.
I'm setting up some things on the back end, so we need to make sure that we're still running. But I appreciate
And
you
when
coming.
I say this, not issues. You're welcome. It was a lot. And so,
Should've just come over here.
it was naturally hurting. Naturally hurting. His pops were. Naturally
Oh, you're back out?
Yeah, you back over.
I did. That's what I just said. I was thinking the last thing right around the corner.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, that's it.
That was their home.
Yeah, he,
His mom's home.
met with
And
Bubba up there in Atlanta.
it was a lot,
When they went up there.
you know, but it's,
Bubba up there, he's the,
it was a lot for
state representative.
the neighborhood. Nothing happened when I was in here.
Third term.
Just one, didn't happen up there. Because, I
Last
probably
2
like this.
years, he ran into.
And you know the story just like I know mine, right?
He had one person ran against the gas.
Genuine citizens, right?
He's been.
When he lived. Yeah, so.
They like these boys. Yeah, so.
Really? Do you really? It was for whenever you went to.
Yes and no.
No, you don't want to.
There you go. When we think about
I appreciate, yeah, and just, but I push in. I'll just put it on.
That's a little league.
Yeah, DJ. There's like replug, and do they have some, do they have something?
With my family, my grandfather. His brother and brother, they were all
Oh, okay, thank you. I have some more copies back there, so I can disperse. Okay. Excuse me, sorry.
Beautiful artwork in the back wall.
If any descendants want to come here, you're definitely welcome. All right. How you doing? I'm good.
Mama Brown's baby boy.
Yes, yes, yes. Yes. Take your time. Okay, you sit down. You want a chair? Bring a chair over. So she- Did you want a small, one of those chairs? Okay. All right, well, good afternoon. I'm attorney Damario Solomon-Simmons. I'm a civil rights attorney and the founder and executive director of Justice for Greenwood. And I'm here today with survivors and descendants of the Tulsa Race Massacre. Some of my co-counsel are here. Also Representative Congressman Al Green out of Houston, Texas, who you'll hear from today. And so we're here because we just made some history over the last couple of days. For the first time in 103 years, the Department of Justice, United States Department of Justice, came to Tulsa in relation to the Tulsa Race Massacre. And over the last 48 hours, they've had the opportunity to meet with survivors and to meet with what we call first-generation descendants. These are individuals whose parents suffered the massacre. And it was very important to us to prioritize our first-generation descendants, who are all 70 plus, to have an opportunity to convey how they feel things should go with this, what the Department of Justice now is calling the review and evaluation. They also had an opportunity to meet with 3 of the members of the 1997 Tulsa Race Riot Commission. And so they received additional documents and information that was not involved or a part of the 2001 Tulsa Race Riot Commission report. And there will be many, many more documents and information forthcoming. So the first thing I want to say is we thank the Department of Justice and Assistant Attorney General Christian Clark for launching this review and evaluation. But it was very clear from everyone they have met with over the last 48 hours, including the survivors, that everyone wants a full investigation. Everyone wants actual accountability for the massacre. They want those who perpetrated this harm that started in 1921 and continues to today to be held accountable. That was a uniform sentiment of each and every individual that met and shared their time and their stories and their information, their experiences with the Department of Justice. So what I want to do, I don't usually read things at a press conference, but our survivors couldn't be here, although their grandchildren, LaDonna Penny for Mother Randall and Ike Howard for Mother Fletcher are here. I want to read their statement. Quote, as the only living survivors of the Tulsa Race Massacre, we escaped the white mob that murdered our neighbors and reduced us to refugees, only to hear time and time again from Oklahoma's judicial system that there would never be a recourse for people like us. But history was made this week when the United States Justice Department came to Greenwood to hear our testimony, gather evidence, and officially survey the crime scene that has haunted us for over 100 years. We desperately needed this federal lifeline amid the state's and city's ongoing effort to gaslight us into our graves. To this day, secrets about the atrocity that we fled remain hidden in long suppressed government documents and corporate records, in historical archives, and concealed in insurance company records. Thanks to the DOJ review, our nation will have the opportunity for the first time to know the truth about the despicable plot to put an affluent black community, quote unquote, in its place. And we pray that the DOJ would do its job and hold those accountable that perpetrated this unspeakable crime. This moment marks significant progress towards justice, but we hope America understands that too many Greenwood residents I'm gonna say this, too many Greenwood residents have died without any remedy, without any respect, without any reparations. We hope that once the DOJ publishes this report, that it will serve as a step towards real justice, real respect, real accountability, and real reparations. After 103 years of erasure and justice denied, we are weary. But God has brought us this far for a reason. We pray that the DOJ will finally bring accountability within our reach and that we are alive to see it. And we just left both survivors. One 110 years old, Viola Ford Fletcher, Mother Fletcher, and one 109 years old, Leslie Benefield Randall, Mother Randall, who will be 110 on November 10th. And they both said, this is long overdue, and you've heard their words. This has been an emotional couple of days for all of us involved as people recount the stories, the experiences, the trauma. Because it's not just about property. It's not just about businesses. It's not just about churches. It's real people. People's grandparents, people's grandparents, people's parents, people's parents that suffered the massacre. And so I invite anyone, particularly descendants, but anyone, if you have information that you believe can move this process forward with the Department of Justice, to reach out to us at Justice for Greenwood. You can email us at DOJ@JusticeForGreenwood. That is DOJ@JusticeForGreenwood. If you have information, documents, stories, names, any information that you think should be in front of the Department of Justice, please reach out. Right now, the Department of Justice has a timeline to have their report done by the end of the year, this year. So it's not a very long time. So we need you to act now, to come forward. If you have information about your family members that you want to be shared, come forward. Contact us at Justice for Greenwood. The DOJ will be back in town probably next month, and we want to make sure that anyone that has credible information can get that information in front of them. Next, I want to introduce Congressman Al Green, who has also been here over the last 48 hours. He did not participate in the interviews with the DOJ, but he was here meeting with survivors and descendants, walking the Greenwood district, talking to people on the street here in Greenwood about what do people want, how can he best help. And we've had a lot of visitors over the last 4 or 5 years come to Greenwood. A lot of visitors from around the nation. A lot of supporters from around the nation has done a lot of great things for Justice for Greenwood and for the Greenwood community. But I think this is the first time we've had someone spend 48 hours with us and walk the entire district of Greenwood to see the full magnitude of what happened here in Greenwood, to understand the scale, the scope of the massacre and the entire district. And we're so thankful for you, Congressman Green, for doing that and bringing your staff. And I want to yield my time to you, sir.
Thank you very much. And I'd like to thank the press for being here. It is exceedingly important that the press get this message to the masses. I know that there's been much said, and there'll be much more said, but I don't think too much can ever be said about what happened in 1921. Let me tell you now why I'm here. I was honored to have the preeminent privilege of sending a letter to the President and the Department of Justice, asking for justice for the people who suffered here in 1921. They've not received justice, and their descendants. I'm here because I received an invitation from Attorney Solomon-Simmons indicating that the DOJ would be here, giving me the opportunity to come as well. I'm also here because I'm a United States Congressman. This is within the United States. This is a place where I should be if there is a means by which I can provide some assistance. But finally, I'm here because there's injustice here. There is injustice in this city. There's injustice that has been covered up. There's injustice that has not had its day in court. And I'm here to do what I can to facilitate all of these things. I believe that a person who comes and is accorded the opportunity to see what I have seen, I believe that that person will be overwhelmed. I believe that that person at some point will have tears to well in the eyes. When you hear the stories, when you can hear what the chief called to my attention, when you can go to the places that I've gone and see what is there now and what was there in 1921, and then see the day after the event took place or sometime thereafter, to actually see what the 35 blocks that were once a thriving community, to see what it looked like after it had been literally obliterated. It touches your heart. It has to know that these people, innocent people, workers, middle class, upper class, people who were veterans, were literally pushed into a corner and forced out of their homes. Their homes were bombed. It is unspeakable almost. So I have to tell the story so that you can get a sense of why I feel so compelled to do what I plan to do. I have my staff working right now, today. We're trying to finish 2 pieces of legislation. The 2 descendants that I had survivors, that I had the opportunity to meet with today, Ms. Randall and Ms. Fletcher. We are introducing private bills for each of them. When the city does not live up to its responsibility of protecting its citizens, when the county does not meet its obligation, and when the state fails to do what it should to secure people, then the federal government has to step up. That's what the federal government is for. We have to do our job. Our job consists of making sure we provide the justice by way of some emolument to the persons who have suffered. These 2 ladies, 109 and 110 years of age, have suffered. This piece of legislation, this bill for each of them, their names will be on each piece. Ms. Fletcher's name will be on a piece, Ms. Randall's name. And this legislation would have the federal government do what it did for others, what it did for those persons on 9/11 who suffered. What we have seen done for others, the federal government would provide them an emolument and make sure that they get it as expeditiously as possible. Now, I say expeditiously as possible. I don't know when my colleagues will act. I don't know if they will act, because before you can have an act of Congress, you have to have a Congress willing to act. I'm prayerful that we will have a Congress willing to act when the story is told of what happened to these two ladies. The amount of the emolument may seem huge to some, but quite candidly, having been a lawyer now for many years and served as a judge of a small claims justice court, I don't think that the number is large, to be very honest. But I'm going to start with this number. It may increase, it may decrease. But I just think that $10 million apiece is not too much. I really don't think it's too much. I just believe that there ought to be some punitive damages along with compensatory damages. Another $10 million. This is what the legislation will call for. I quite frankly don't think it's enough. I don't know that we can ever pay them enough for what they've suffered over the years. There'll be a third piece of legislation to address all of the others who are not named in these two pieces. This third piece will have a similar means of redress, and we're working on the details of this. But here's what I know. I know that if the Congress of the United States of America decides to do this, it can be done. This is not about the way to do it, it's more about the will to do it. The Congress can do pretty much whatever it pleases. When we decided that we were going to accord some many billions of dollars to those who suffered 9/11, we did it. It was just a matter of us having the will. When we decided that the Me Too movement needed a shot in the arm because of statutes of limitations, we eliminated those impediments. When we found our Jewish brothers and sisters in harm's way, we assisted them. We have gone so far as to work with other countries to make sure that they receive reparations, and they should receive reparations for what happened to them. I would say to you, what happened here is no exception to the need to give persons reparations for harm suffered under extreme circumstances. I believe that what we have done to help others, we should do for those who were American citizens. American citizens.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Some things bear repeating. American citizens. They deserve to be afforded justice. We will not stop. As long as I have a breath of air within me, I plan to continue to help Attorney Miller and Attorney Solomon-Simmons to bring justice to this cause. So I leave you with this. I know why this was done. Persons of African ancestry were brought here for 4 reasons. August 20th, 1619, verse 20, to a place called Point Comfort, near what's now Norfolk, Virginia. 4 reasons. To be a permanent, it was their desire that I be enslaved. It wasn't to end, it was to continue forever. Identifiable, color of skin, not character within. Permanent, identifiable. Subservient, always stay in your place. Never speak up for yourself. Accept whatever is meted out. In fact, Judge Taney indicated to my ancestors that they had no rights that a white man had to respect. Permanent, identifiable, subservient. Here's a mistake a good many people make, Attorney Solomon-Simmons. A good many people make the mistake of thinking that it was a class, of people that they were forced into. It wasn't a class, it was a caste. Class is socioeconomic. You can move in and out of a class. A caste, you are born into. Babies were born into slavery. Babies grew up in slavery, enslaved. Babies died. It lasted for 246 years, my dear friends. 246 years. Thank God for Abraham Lincoln. 246 years. Could have gone on more. Then you had almost another 100 years of convict leasing. Thereafter, you had lawful invidious discrimination in the form of segregation, which is another way of saying racism. Lawful. We were brought here to be servants. And to this day, the problem that we had on day one, we still have. And that problem, among many, is access to capital. Access to capital, money. Access to capital. I sit on the Financial Services Committee under the leadership of the Honorable Maxine Waters. I was the chair of Oversight and Investigation Subcommittee. We brought in the big banks, insurance companies. We found about how they participated by and through their predecessor institutions. They participated in this institution of slavery. People were bought and sold. They were insured. Money was made in the form of loans to people so that they could buy people and enslave them. But these people didn't have access to the land when it was free, if you could just fence it in and squat. They didn't have access to the benefits of the veterans coming back from the wars. There's always been an impediment to our having access to money. There always has been. In my committee, we brought people in who explained that you can do this thing called testing, where you send people out, some more qualified than others. African Americans who were more than qualified would receive less money in loans than Anglos who were less qualified. Pay more for the points, pay more in points for the money. This access to capital is at the root of all of this. We have been denied money, and there is still an understanding that that takes place in this country today. By the way, someone would say, well, where's the conspiracy, Congressman Green? When did they meet? You don't have to meet if there's an understanding. Things that are understood don't have to be spoken. It is understood in this society that you don't have to be fair to people of color. But that's changing. You see me wearing this tie? I love my country. I'm not a person who burns the flag, but I will defend the rights of those who do. I sing the national anthem. I stand, but I defend the rights of those who do not. And I said to you, I love the country because I should. My ancestors were sacrificed for 246 years to make America great. America is what it is because of them. I love the country because I love the people who made it what it is.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And I close, as you know, a Baptist preacher has 3 closings. I'm not a Baptist preacher. My grandfather was a preacher, so I've learned to close 3 times. My final closing is to thank these people who have been involved in this struggle. This struggle consumes you. Their lives have been consumed with this. if you have to be around them and hear them and understand how this is something that means more to them than money. It's not about money for them. They have the habits. They cannot help themselves. This man gets up every morning trying to figure out how he's going to solve this problem for people who suffered some 100+ years ago. This man was there before he was, trying to figure out how to solve this problem. And now here I am, and I'm going to try to figure out how to solve this problem. I may not have the solution, but I'll put the solution before the Congress and give them an opportunity to act. I thank you for what you've done. God bless you. Thank you.
Thank you. Wow. Thank you so much, Congressman Green. Before Eric comes, and have a few thoughts. I gave out my staff let me know that I gave out the wrong email. I said .com and not .org. So it's DOJ@justiceforgreenwood.org. DOJ@justiceforgreenwood.org. I'll say it one more time. If you have information, documents, or you'd like to speak to the DOJ, reach us at DOJ@justiceforgreenwood.org. And I'm my good friend, Professor Eric Miller, who's a professor at Loyola Marymount College out in Los Angeles, California. As Representative Green stated, he has been coming and working on behalf of Tulsa and survivors and descendants for over 20 years. I first met Eric when I was a third-year law student at the University of Oklahoma, and he was one of the main lawyers in the federal civil rights litigation that was led by Professor Charles Ogletree, our mentor, who passed away last year. So I love Eric, I love this man, and he loves this community. So Eric, please.
So I am going to be fairly short. I just want to say what a privilege and an honor it has been to participate with the survivors and descendants and hear their histories and narratives. We've learned, as we always do, something new every time we speak to people who have direct or their parents have had direct experience of the massacre. As always, we've had an overwhelming response from the Black community in Tulsa, but we are also asking for a response from the white community in Tulsa. So we know that there are plenty of you out there in the white community who might have in your attic or on your mantelpiece pictures or a diary or some piece of memorabilia that dates back to the Tulsa Race Massacre of 1921. Or maybe your granddaddy or your great uncle told you something about what happened on that terrible night and the following day, or the days and months after that. And so what we are urging you to do is to come forward, again, to DOJ@justiceforgreenwood.org, to help the Department of Justice with its review. The Department of Justice has been very clear to us that they want to hear from as many different people as possible and gather as broad a history of the massacre as they possibly can. And so once again, to the white community of Tulsa, we know there's stories, diaries, pictures, memorabilia that's out there that has yet to be brought to the light of day, and so we encourage you to do that. So reach out to us or reach out directly to the Department of Justice. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you.
In closing, I just want to thank my team at Justice for Greenwood and my law firm, Solomon-Simmons Law. Also my other co-counsel at Schulte, Ross, and Zabel, who have worked really hard to make this happen today, and all our co-counsel on our case. It's been a long time coming to get the DOJ here. You heard some exciting news about what we're working on with Representative Green. We'll get more information about that. But most of all, I want to thank our survivors and our descendants for continuing to push forward. We have Mr. Penny and Mrs. Penny here, and they were one of the individuals that, one of our clients that met with the DOJ yesterday. It's just powerful testimony. So I'm just so thankful for you all for continuing to believe in this injustice. You could have given up such a long time ago. And so continue to look for more information from Justice for Greenwood on this issue. We're going to keep everyone informed. And again, if you have any information, any documents, please reach out at doj@justiceforgreenwood.org. Thank you.
What, at the end of the DOJ, what would justice look like? Like, what would they have to do for you to feel that there is justice?
Yeah, for the DOJ, and we understand that the DOJ is dealing mostly with criminal liability. So it's three things that we want to see from the Department of Justice. We want those who, number one, those who perpetrated the harm to be held accountable. So what does that mean for individuals that are deceased? We want those individuals to be identified. And I think that is what every survivor, every descendant has always stated to me in my 20 plus years of working on this, and Eric's 20 plus years, and I saw Mr. Penny shaking his head, yes. People want to know. One of the things that's been so devastating about this massacre and kept people living in fear for such a long time, that this could happen and no one be held accountable. And that fear is real today. And so that's the number one thing, that's one thing they could do. Secondly, for those entities and organizations who perpetrated the massacre and its continuing harm that are still alive or ongoing today, they should be held accountable. That's the city of Tulsa. That's Tulsa County. That's the state of Oklahoma. That's the chamber and other organizations and corporations that participated in this massacre that are still here today. The DOJ should hold them accountable. And thirdly, the DOJ should have paved the way for justice and reparations to happen for the survivors and descendants. This nation, as Representative Green has stated, is still paying reparations for those who committed the Holocaust, rightfully so. They're still prosecuting. If they find a prison guard that's 102 years old living in San Diego or Cuba or wherever they can get their hands on them, they will prosecute that person. It sends a signal to the Jewish brothers and sisters that you matter. So we want the same signal sent to the black people of Greenwood, or all those who suffered the massacre, because we have people in our network who are not black, who suffered the massacre, but they lived in a black community and they cannot get any justice. So those are the things that we want to see from the Department of Justice, and this is what was conveyed by each person over the last 48 hours.
When it comes to the sense of urgency, you know, we've lost Hughes Van Ellis, right? We've lost the survivors from the early 2000s on the original case. And many people, of course, feel that Oklahoma is trying to wait out the survivors that remain.
Video that says
When it comes to the sense of urgency, how confident are you that Biden will take action following this review before his term in office ends? And then my second question is for the representative from Texas. What is your message to the Oklahoma delegation, which has never shown up for these survivors?
Well, we are going to do all we can to continue to push to get the justice for our two living survivors. You talked about in the early 2000s having over 100. These were our clients, Eric and I clients. We knew these people. People see them on the wall at the Greenwood Cultural Center. They were real people to us. And many of those I grew up with growing up here in North Tulsa and not even knowing that they were survivors. So it is a sense of urgency. To be today with our survivors today and to talk to them and know that they still want to see this at 109, 110, makes each and every day, as Representative Green said, waking up and saying, how can we get this done now for them and for their families and their community? As far as President Biden, you know, we're going to continue to make the ask and do what we can. I like what hopefully the new President of the United States, Kamala Harris, she said, we fight, we win. We're going to continue to fight, and we're going to continue to believe we're going to win.
Thank you for your question. I would ask not only the colleagues that I have here, but the colleagues in Congress to sign on to the legislation that can make a difference. That legislation can make a difference in the lives of these two ladies, but it can also, this third piece, make a difference in the lives of the aggregate of people. I think it's good legislation, and I hope that they'll sign on to it. Just one announcement. Ms. Randall is going to be celebrating her 110th birthday next month. I have already instructed my staff to fly a flag over the Capitol of the United States of America to honor her for her 110 years of fighting. She's been fighting all of her life for this, and I think that that's the least that we can do. This country owes her a flag at minimum, but we want to get more than a flag, obviously. Thank you.
So the city's basically saying, you know, we want to thank the Department of Justice for stepping in, helping us with our investigation, kind of just taking credit for everything that has been going on, but yet, you know, you've always called them out for, you know, their lack of effort and trying to come to justice. What would you say to that?
Well, I would just point back to when our litigation was dismissed, that the mayor said he was elated or happy that these survivors wouldn't see justice. And so I think that speaks volumes of what the city really thinks about these survivors and descendants. So our hope is to continue to push the DOJ to make sure things are done correctly, particularly as we are literally digging bodies out of the ground and identifying people for the first time in 103 years. But again, I would point back to Mayor Bynum's, their statement that they were elated and happy that these families will not see justice from the judicial system of Oklahoma.
Descendant of 1921 Tulsa Race Massacre wanted to know, why is it so hard to get justice if there's so much proof proving eyewitness accounts of what really happened?
Hey, this is America, you know, we have to fight through so many odds, obstacles, and opposition. And unfortunately, that is what my grandma used to call the black tax. And that's part of it. And it's unfortunate, but it's a reality. The good news is that we have people still fighting and people still working, and they're getting younger and younger. And we're going to continue to make sure that history is known. And we've been very blessed here in Tulsa over the last 4 or 5 years to continue to get new partners like Representative Green and so many others who are standing with us, who are listening and hoping to see justice. So we're going to continue to do what we can with all that we can, as much as we can.
And as a follow-up, we've got another question from press who's watching this online. What does this DOJ review mean? Does the DOJ plan to use subpoenas? There's also there's a report to be issued by the end of the year, which is only 2 months' time. Is it realistic to actually expect that this will lead to meaningful change?
You have to really direct that to the DOJ. I think that was something that was discussed by the survivors and descendants over the last 48 hours. You know, what would this really mean? Hoping this is not pro forma or just performative in nature. But I think you have to really ask them about whatever resources that they're putting towards it. We thank them for being here the last 48 hours. But our goal is we want a true investigation, we want true accountability, and we want the perpetrators to be held accountable. Thank you.
How many people were here?
Two.
Two. And how long were they here? Or are they still here?
I'm not sure.